A good jungler can make or break a team within Paragon. Balancing farming, covering lanes, and ganking is all key within the role of the jungler. In this guide, I will go over how to rotate, when to farm, and the basic idea of how to play the jungle role. First, let's go over the heroes. Aurora, Crunch, Fangmao, Greystone, Grux, Kalari, Chimera, Quang, Rampage, Richter, Seraph, and lastly Sevarog make up the recommended choices. If you are new to the jungle position, I would recommend Fangmao, Grux, Quang, Rampage, and Chimera because their kits are a little bit more forgiving for new junglers. Now, for most junglers, growth is a affinity that's just a must. It has some great cards that are really tuned to a jungler. Your second affinity can vary between Order, which has a few decent cards, Death, which has some great tank cards, as well as a few offensive, and it has Possessed Sprykin, and Chaos, which offers just a ton of high damage cards. Next we have gems. Now your rank 1 gem in agility offers Jungle Assassin, and this gem can really make you do more damage and have a ton of help clearing out those white camps. Within Vitality, your rank 1 gem is called Jungle Lifesteal, and this can provide a little bit of sustain for heroes that don't have sustain within the jungle, like Grux and Fangmao. Next up, we have our rank 7 gem, which you can go with Armored, but Mana Reactor is a very strong gem for junglers. This gives you mana when you take damage and can really provide a lot of sustain for jungle heroes. Now the jungle has two sides to it, and they're split up by the mid lane. If you're on the Dawn side, the big side of your jungle is located towards the solo lane, and if you're on the Dusk side, it's located towards the duo lane. Now, jungle minions spawn in at the first round at 60 seconds, and then additional reinforcements spawn in every 90 seconds after. And the big minion takes priority, so if you clear out the big minion, another big minion will spawn in at 90 seconds, but if a big minion is up, a smaller minion will spawn in. Next, you have the green buff. Now, the green buff is located in the center of the big side of the jungle, and it spawns in at 120 seconds, and it spawns in additionally 3 minutes after you take it down. The green buff lasts for 1 full minute and has 200 health, and it reflects damage done to your hero while you have the green buff up. Once either the timer runs out or enough damage is done to get rid of the shield, it explodes, dealing additional damage to all nearby enemies. Next up, we have the small side of the jungle. Now, the small side of the jungle only has 2 camps. The one in between the fog walls is the black buff. Now, the black buff has the same features as the green buff as far as how much health and minions that it spawns in, but the buff gives you a small aura that reveal nearby enemies, as well as on basic attack you apply a slow to enemies. With ranged it's a 15% slow, and with melee it's a 20% slow. This can be a really good tool when going in for ganks, things like that. And lastly, we have that outer buff that is located in between the fog wall of the jungle and the duo lane camp on one side, and of course it's on the solo lane side if you're on Dusk. And this camp is really kind of a shared camp. It's out of the way for the jungler, but you should never neglect it completely. Now, there are several ways to do jungle rotations. This clip is sped up double speed, so it goes quite a bit faster, but you can go around and clear out all 4 big minions. This will be fast enough to where you don't actually get that second minion to spawn in, and then you can go pick up green buff, and by the time you get done with your green buff, you will then have another minion spawn in on all 4 of these camps and go around and clean them out again. If you do decide to go ahead and take out all 4 camps and the green buff, you will actually hit level 3 without leaving the jungle, and you'll be between 2 minutes and 20 seconds and 2 minutes and 50 seconds, depending on the type of cards that you start out with. Now, I started out with Demolitionist, and so that gave me my Jungle Assassin gem. Once I got 1,000 gold, I was able to put on that Jungle Lifesteal to give me some decent sustain, and I'm actually going to be able to pick up Black buff, rotate around, and pick up the River buff. Now, this isn't a bot match, so it's not going to be near as convenient always when you're in a PvP match, but you can see this simple rotation as the jungle. I've done fairly well with farm, and I'm already level 3. Other heroes such as Fang Mao don't really have sustain features in their decks, which Grux doesn't as well, but I was running Jungle Lifesteal. In this deck, I'm not running Jungle Lifesteal. I do have Living Guardian on, which will help out a little bit, but you can see without that Jungle Lifesteal, I am taking quite a bit of damage. You know, this is about a fifth to a quarter health in damage every time I get into a fight with one of these bigger minions. And so I am going to be forced to back fairly early. And this can kind of change your mind of how you're going to rotate. Now, you can really see the importance of having Jungle Lifesteal on one of these non-sustaining heroes. It would really allow me to stay in the jungle for much longer compared, this video compared to that last clip of Grux. So, being able to stay in the jungle and rotate, maybe even clean out all jungle camps is huge. And if you're playing one of these non-sustained heroes, definitely go for Jungle Lifesteal. The rotation I find myself most doing in PvP matches is taking out 2 jungle camps and then the green buff. Now, I'm terrible at putting my points in, but I would highly recommend if you have Jungle Assassin, as soon as you hit 1,000 points, guys, put that in because that will definitely help you down the green monster faster. But if you look in this case, I go for this green buff pretty early, only 2 camps down, but this does allow me to rotate over. And since we do have this Grim and Fae presence in our solo lane, they were able to get our support and our ADC down. This is going to allow me to, of course, rotate on this very low Grim and take him out. Since I have green, if he would have continued to shoot me, it would have killed him. So he quit shooting me and just let me slap him to death. This is not only going to, really keep him from getting as farmed as he would have if I wouldn't have rotated, but now I can rotate back to my jungle and clear out more jungle camps. This method also works if you're on that Dawn side, so where your jungle is further away from the duo lane, you can still use this same type of rotation to actually make this type of thing happen. And you can see I clear out 2 camps, then go for the green. But the difference in this is I actually take out another camp with my green buff. And the reason I do this is because I want to get damage on the green buff. This means it's going to take a lot less hits for that green buff to actually explode. And I really want the green buff to explode onto the enemy heroes. This is going to allow it to not only do more damage, but in the early game, that explosion does quite a bit of damage, and it can really help in assisting when killing a hero. Now, again, I just rotate over to this duo lane, and we go ahead and get a root onto this Wukong, and you can see, he pushed me away, but that explosion did do damage to him. If I wouldn't have taken that second camp out with that green buff, that little knockback that he did, it would not have caused it to explode, and, even though we weren't able to wrap that kill up, we did force them to back, alleviating a lot of pressure in our duo lane. Another thing you should really look at when playing the jungle role is covering lanes. Now you can see here we don't have a mid lane at the moment, and our Countess just went down, so we're going to need some help in the mid lane. There are 2 heroes here, so I'm just going to head to the mid lane and help defend this lane. Now my Murdoch did show up, so I'm not going to have to work near as hard as I normally would, but by us staying here, we're going to avoid a ton of damage on this mid tower, and this is really going to give our Countess enough time to spawn back in and head to lane. Now, one thing when you are going for ganks, don't just run out there. You can wait behind these fog walls for the enemy to show up, especially if you're in comms with your team. You can tell them, hey, I'm going to wait here. Y'all kind of bait them out. Don't chase them off. And you could see in that fight, we let them push up a little bit, and this is going to allow us to really chase them off. And with our steel staying in, he's tanking these tower damage, and I'm going to be able to wrap up this Seraph kill and then, really just get out of this situation. Although I do take quite a bit of tower damage, we were able to take down their ADC and their support pretty effortlessly by just waiting for them to push up. If I would have ran out at the beginning, we would have never got those kills. Now again, just a little bit later of that same match, we kind of have that same situation. The ADC and support are fairly low in their lane, but instead of going from the front to where they would have warning, I'm going to come in behind them and, start attacking them when they're not expecting it. Sure enough, we're able to take out that Wraith, and if I would have ran straight forward, he would have definitely rewound me. So you always want to go in from an angle that they're not suspecting, which is really what a gank is. One thing that is extremely helpful as the jungler is pinging. If you're on your way somewhere or something like that, just give some insight to that enemy hero or that friendly hero to know to go ahead and, start attacking, and you'll be there to either clean up or help out. And that's exactly what we do here. Now, we have an off-lane Durango in this match, and you can see we're kind of just contesting this Greystone. He's scared to jump down because I am here, but I don't want to just run up there and, keep him from actually coming down. Sure enough, Durango's able to take his ultimate away, and I'm really getting ready to make something happen. Of course, this is, there's a lot of time wasted here, but with our Morghast showing up, we're going to go ahead and be able to ult him and then end up taking him out. And this is really what you want to do as the jungler. Really provide instances for your team to get kills, push lanes, things like that. Helping your team is also a huge part of being the jungler as well. You can see in this clip, our Belica gets caught out, and she's not really jumping down, but we're kind of waiting for things to happen. We go ahead and just go in on this Quang. Luckily, Belica was able to jump down, and we're actually able to take out Quang, and Belica was able to survive. If we wouldn't have been able to rotate there, or if we wouldn't have made the decision to rotate there, she would have definitely died, and it took very little effort for me to head over there and just provide a good distraction for that Quang so she didn't get sandwiched in. Now, when you do gank heroes, if you have something like green buff that will allow you to tower dive, you can use that as a very good tool. But don't just throw yourself away. You can see in this clip, my green buff ran out right before we got into tower, and although I am able to secure that Seraph kill, we go down as well, which, this is terrible, guys. I not only fed the offlaner, even though I did get a kill, it's just really not worth it. Now, ganks don't always turn out to give you kills. Sometimes enemies get away. You can see here, this Gideon was able to get out, but really, guys, that's not that big of a deal. One thing I see a lot of junglers do is they instantly turn around and run away. But if you can help push a lane, go for it. You see, we've got a couple of stuns onto that Gideon, and our wave this entire time is building and building. Me and Gadget we're able to do quite a bit of damage to both that Wukong and to the Gideon. This is going to force them to back, and they're not going to be able to really stay in this fight all that much. And with this huge minion wave, we'll get a substantial amount of damage onto this tower. If I would have just turned and left, this tower might not have taken any damage, let alone almost half. So staying in and helping down towers is not only the junglers one of their key jobs, but it can be just tremendously helpful to everybody on your team. But don't get wrapped up in just pushing lanes. Your job is to rotate around and help out everywhere. You can see we got to head over to this duo lane because unfortunately our ADC and support recently went down, and you know, we just need to be here to help deal with this push, and we don't want to take just a ton of damage, especially since I'm here, I can help out. Now, as a jungler, you also have to learn when to let teammates go. You can see our steal just goes for the deepest jungle invade I've ever seen on the enemy team. And I go over to help out, but our steal gets absolutely melted. And since this is the case, you know, I'm left here with these two heroes, and I end up going for a jump over right there, which I thought that worked. But besides that, you know, now I'm the one that's caught out. No longer is Steel the one that's caught out, it's me, and I'm going to end up paying the price for it. Now here is an example of knowing when to actually get out and actually performing that escape instead of just engaging in a losing battle. Now, our team is pushing that T2 or that T1 in that duo lane, and so I'm going to head over there. You know, we don't have a whole lot of vision of enemies on the map, and so we know they might have some presence over there. Sure enough, there's a 3-man rotation, and I'm heading over there. I'm going over as fast as I can, and unfortunately, I'm just not over there fast enough to really help out. And instead of going in and engaging on this fight that I would most definitely lose, I'm going to peel off. And you can see I kind of jump down, and I'm kind of looking around, seeing where the enemies are. There's Quang and Muriel, and I can't handle them. You know, I do know our Morgesh is there with Bellica, so I want to stay close. We still do have a team presence here, but, you know, it's definitely not as good as having an entire team. I am able to root Quang. This is going to allow Morgesh to get out, but you can see, again, I am just kind of staying around. I'm playing that defensive hero, but I'm staying safe. I'm not engaging in anything. I'm just being a distraction so my team can get out safely. Now again, guys, junglers have to help out when downing towers. We go ahead and go in onto this Seraph a little bit, but, you know, Seraph is a pretty tricky hero to kill unless she just stays in a fight. We're able to chase her off a little bit, but this is going to allow us to head in, and with that Steel ultimate, we're able to take her out. And I'm going to stay here to make sure we down this tower, and then maybe even push this lane. You know, we do have a hero down, and there's no presence over here, but as soon as we see an enemy show up, or two enemies show up, we need to take off. And sure enough, Chimera showed up, and that really ends us being able to do anything, so we're going to turn and get out. And this is really key, guys. As the jungler, make sure to stay in on towers, and make sure to follow your team. If they're staying in, you should try to stay in, unless it's just a situation that no one should be in on. You also need to know when to switch targets. Now, in this clip, I was going for a gank, but Shimby shows up, so we kind of focus her down, and then you can see the support and that Revenant start to head over. So I'm going to switch off of Shimby, and I really need to be the front line for my team. I really need to be the guy that's absorbing all the damage. With having that Murdoch and Decker, you know, I'm the guy that takes the damage, so switching targets is huge. Lastly, we have picking bad times to fight. Now, in this clip, I'm going to go into this mid lane fight, and there's a huge enemy presence as well as a massive minion wave. And you can see here, I pick out one of the ADCs to go after, but I'm in the middle of this minion wave. I've got just a ton of enemies here, and they're going to shred me to pieces. The thing that makes this engagement even worse is my team went in and followed up on this attack, and you can see we get slaughtered. We actually lose 4 people in that fight, which that should never have happened. Now, one of the last responsibilities of the jungler is Fang. Now, although that responsibility doesn't solely lie on the jungler, there is one jungler out there that can take it out at a very low level, and you see me doing it at level 4 as Chimera, and he's completely capable of this, guys. So, as a jungler, you want to definitely keep an eye on Fang, make sure it's not being soloed, or even ping your team, attack Fang, so you can have some rotation and really get some presence to help down this. because when you are soloing Fang at level 4, it's very easy to get it stolen from you, and really stealing Fang or just downing Fang early is absolutely huge. So try to take Fang out as much as you can, guys, and use that pinging system to let your team know to rotate, because that's what you're going to do. A lot of the times the jungler's the guy that starts the Fang fight, and so be that guy. Well, that's gonna wrap it up for Pirate School 104 Jungle Guide. I really hope y'all enjoyed, and if you did, show me some love. Leave me a comment, think about subscribing, join our Discord, I'd love to play with y'all, and as always, I'll see y'all in the next video.